So the September ban list is officially legal as of today, and there were so many changes made to the list. And now that I've had a bit more time to actually digest the list and see what the changes really are and how they impact the game, I've decided to bring you my winners and losers of the ban list. I'm going to be talking about some decks or cards or just different things in general that were really good after the ban list or successful, and some things that are going to be struggling after this list. So if you guys are excited for the video, do me a favor and smash the like button, subscribe for more amazing competitive Yu-Gi-Oh videos, and of course for more post-ban list content. I'll be bringing you a ton of videos over the course of the next couple of weeks. But if you missed my initial reaction to the ban list, then check out the video in the cards. I go over every single card that was moved onto the list or taken off the list and explain why it's an impactful hit or a hit that really doesn't accomplish much. But that being said, let's go ahead and jump into our first winner for the September 2024 ban list. So our first winner on this list is going to be none other than Snake Eye, which is a little surprising when you think about it, considering that the deck had 5 hits to it on this ban list. It got Snake Eye Poplar and Snake Eye Ash limited to 1 copy. It also saw Fiendsmith Lacrima, Appaloosa, and Beatrice all banned, and those 3 cards, these 5 cards in general, were critical to the Snake Eyes deck. And now that these cards aren't in the list itself, the deck has actually gotten a lot weaker. However, it's still a very strong deck that can accomplish pretty much all the same things it had done before, with just a little bit less consistency and with fewer extenders. Now, the reason why I would classify Snake Eye as being a winner for this ban list is because we were expecting the deck to be absolutely demolished, but it's still very playable and actually very strong as well. We were expecting hits to Snake Eye Ash to get banned, Flamber's Dragon getting banned, and even Snake Eye Oak as well going to 0-2. But honestly, none of that happened, and it makes the deck still incredibly powerful, and with the fact that we're getting the new Azamina cards coming out in Rage of the Abyss just a day before YCS Niagara, the deck is going to be the best deck in the format right after that release, but for the time being, it's still going to be one of the top 3 or 5 best decks in the format. Yubel is another deck that was incredibly good in the previous format and will continue to be so in the upcoming one as well. Yubel is incredibly powerful, and the only hits to Yubel are essentially going to be opening of the Spirit Gates. All the 3 main banned cards being Appaloosa, Beatrice, and Fiendsmith Lacrima, while they could have some application in the Yubel deck, it's not going to be that significant. Most of the time, Yubel decks would try and end on Appaloosa, but now they can more consistently get to something like Varudras, or Phantom of Yubel, and so on. They also have ways to just completely ignore using Fiendsmith Lacrima because they have Aerial Eater instead. Essentially, Yubel was pretty much unhit in terms of its final end board. The only thing it really got hit was going to be a consistency piece in opening of the Spirit Gates. In my opinion, Yubel is going to be easily the best deck at utilizing the Fiendsmith cards because they really didn't get hit at all. Sure, opening to 1 sucks for recovery and for extending, and also just for being a great 1-card starter, but it's not the end of the world. Yubel is poised to be, in my opinion, the best deck of the format, at least until Rage of the Abyss comes out in October. I also believe that Ritual Beast is a massive winner on this ban list. In my opinion, the deck was already going to be one of the top 5 or 7 best decks in the format, and the fact that it hasn't been hit at all and all the top decks got weakened at least a little bit, the deck is definitely going to be in that top 5 consideration. Just think about all the cards that make Ritual Beast such an incredible deck in the format. You have Thunder Dragon Colossus, you have a card like Arch Nemesis Protos, which can shut off pretty much the entire game for so many different decks, and of course you also have Dimension Shifter, which is one of the bread and butter cards of the entire strategy, especially when paired with Rampengu to make it a 1-card combo. The deck is completely untouched and is really one of the better decks in the game today, and especially because of its ability to play Dimension Shifter, it's really solid against 2 of the top decks in the format being Snake Eye and Yubel. And speaking of Dimension Shifter, that's another huge winner on the ban list. Shifter survived yet again, and I can't believe it. I despise Shifter so much. I think it should not be legal in the game today. I think it should be a banned card, absolutely. But it's still around here, so any deck that utilizes Shifter, something like Exosister for example, I already mentioned Ritual Beast, even Tenpai Dragon, all got big buffs because Shifter is still in the format, and decks like Tearlament obviously and other graveyard-centric decks, Dragon Link as well, are all really disappointed because Shifter is still in the format too, so Shifter is definitely a big winner. Runic Stun is also another big winner for this ban list. The only card that was actually hit as part of this strategy was going to be Skill Drain going to 1. And if that's your hit to Runic decks, then something has gone wrong. The Runic engine is incredibly powerful, and sure, it is a very large engine, taking up almost 20 spaces in the main deck as well as maybe 5 or so spots in the extra deck. It doesn't really make much of a difference. The engine is great at doing so many different things as far as disrupting the opponent, providing consistency pieces, and getting bodies on the board for synchro, link, exceed plays, or whatever. I really like the Runic cards in general, but in my opinion, a stun deck like Runic Stun just shouldn't exist in the format, and for that reason, I probably would have limited something like a Runic Tip just to make the deck less consistent, and honestly, that would have been enough, and I think a lot of people would have been fine with that hit. But as it stands, Runic Stun is definitely a big winner. I also think that 60 card pile decks are also a huge winner, mostly because of That Grass Looks Greener. I don't want to spend too long talking about this because there's not a 60 card list that's just been brewing in my mind that's going to be absolutely incredible now that grass is legal, but the card will make a lot of other decks playable, which I think is really cool. And one of the more underrated winners of the ban list is going to be Silhouette Rabbit. Yeah, this card, this generic Link 2 monster, is going to be one of the biggest winners because Appaloosa is banned. Borlos Savage Dragon is banned. Baron de Flora is banned. All these generic extra deck boss monsters are gone, and you need to have a way to just take 2 bodies and get yourself an interruption. Then you can't do much better than Silhouette Rabbit. The fact that you can get your Angel Statue Azrune out of the deck to provide you with interruption, you get the spell and trap destruction with the Silhouette Rabbit as well, and when you pair Silhouette Rabbit with IP Masquerena, you're going to be so much better off because you can then go into SP Little Knight. Silhouette Rabbit is going to be a very common end board piece for a lot of different decks in this upcoming format. Let's shift gears though and talk about some of the losers for the September 2024 ban list. Starting off with, in my opinion, the easiest loser of them all, which is going to be generic extra deck boss monsters. I already spoke about it briefly when I talked about Silhouette Rabbit, but cards like Baron, Borlos Savage Dragon, and now the newly banned Appaloosa, all being hits is just basically a tell that Konami no longer wants there to be easily accessible generic negation or interruption from the extra deck available to pretty much every deck, especially as a going first tool. These cards were incredibly powerful, and it's because of these cards got banned that in my opinion eventually a card like IP Masquerena will also eventually get banned, because the card has been legal for what, 4 years now or so, and the card is part of almost every single end board in Yu-Gi-Oh! I also think that one of the more underrated losers of the ban list is going to be rogue decks in general. Why? Because Pot of Prosperity is at 1 copy. Now, while I agree that the hit to Pot of Prosperity is warranted and makes a lot of sense, that doesn't change the fact that a lot of rogue decks aren't going to be as playable anymore. The reason why a lot of these decks were even in the rogue tier in the first place was because they had Pot of Prosperity on their side to be able to find their engine pieces. They lacked that consistency that Pot of Prosperity could provide to them. Now, in my opinion, the reason why Pot of Prosperity got limited has nothing to do with rogue decks at all. They just so happen to be a casualty. It's because so many good meta decks were also utilizing Pot of Prosperity to become even more consistent and also find just additional non-engine pieces to break opposing players' boards, or to find the perfect hand trap or non-engine card to be able to set up on their turn 1. It's just a little unfortunate that rogue decks are now going to be a lot less consistent with Pot of Prosperity at 1 copy. I also think that hand traps are actually a pretty big loser on this ban list, which is kind of interesting to think about because hand traps in general are incredibly strong in this format. But when you look at the best decks in the game right now, you're still going to have a lot of the same ones. You're going to have your Snake Eye, you're going to have Tenpai Dragon, and you're going to have a deck like Yubel as well. And in my opinion, Yubel is probably going to be the best one. So for that reason, that deck really struggles with board breakers more so than hand traps. So playing a lot more board breakers in the main deck like Forbidden Droplet, Dark Ruler No More, even a card like Evenly Matched in the main deck is going to be a lot more common to see. Now, I'm not saying that hand traps are going to be completely gone from the format, but I am saying we're going to see a lot more board breaker versions of decks be a lot more playable than we did see in the past couple of months of Yu-Gi-Oh! And the next loser for this ban list is going to be, in my opinion, every single card that went from 0 to 1 or to 2 or to 3 copies, basically any card that went up on the ban list except for 1 card. Now, there are 16 cards that went up in playable copies on this list, and the only one that in my opinion is actually a good hit, that is a winner, is going to be That Grass Looks Greener. Nothing else really matters. They're all either way past their prime or don't matter at all at their current copies. Like, for example, did we really need to put a card like Blaster Dragon Ruler of Infernos to 2 copies before putting it to 3? I don't think so. There are so many great cards that got unlimited, but they were so good back in their prime, in their heyday. Right now, they're just not going to do anything for us, and the fact that they're now being released accomplishes nothing. There should have been more impactful unlimits on this list as well. And the final loser for the September 2024 ban list is going to be us, the players. Yeah, look, I was really hoping for a huge list that would drastically impact the format. I wasn't expecting it to happen because Konami doesn't really do that so often, especially when they have product releasing that's going to be directly improving the best decks like Azamina, for example, for Snake Eye. But I was really hoping to see a shift to what the game was becoming. Sure, we have Appaloosa gone and Beatrice gone and a lot of problematic cards being gone, but it wasn't impactful enough. We're going to have this same next 4 months being the same decks around the format. We're going to have Snake Eyes, Yubel, Tenpai Dragon, and they're all going to get better, which is terrifying to think about. In my opinion, this was just a kind of a slap in the face. We want to see more, we want to see a bigger change to the meta, and we just didn't get that. Just think back to where we were a year ago. A year ago at this time, we had a Duelist Nexus release, and we had Unchained being the best deck of the format. And people have come to really love that format because it was really diverse. The best decks weren't super oppressive, and every deck kind of felt like it had a fair chance. We don't have that now, and after the ban list, we don't have that either, which in my opinion is a really unfortunate set of circumstances. But hey, it is what it is, so let me know down in the comments what are some other winners and losers for the September 2024 ban list. I'll try and read, react, and comment to all of them as well. But I have one more thing I want to talk about. It's not going to be necessarily a winner or a loser, just kind of an observation. And it's specifically regarding Fiendsmith Lacrima. I am so happy that Fiendsmith Lacrima is banned. I think it's a great hit and it addresses 3 specific problems. The first of which is going to be that it weakens the Fiendsmith engine, which is easily the best, most generic engine in the history of Yu-Gi-Oh! So a way to just reduce the power level of that deck is always going to be a plus in my opinion. Secondly is going to be the fact that the card itself was extremely new. It just came out and I believe it was July when Infinite Forbidden came out, and it's the newest core set in the TCG. But the fact that it's a common card getting banned sets a precedent that any common card from a core set could be banned on the ban list right away if the deck itself is going to be causing problems with the card. Now I don't expect there to be any bans to ultras or secret rares from brand new core sets, but this is a really good start nonetheless. If we can get rid of a really problematic common card from a brand new set, that's a good thing all around. And the third problem that banning Lacrima addresses is going to be the time rules. This is basically an acknowledgement on Konami's end that their time rules are kind of broken. We've had so many games being decided by Lacrima burn essentially since the card released, and that's really problematic. In my opinion, if Lacrima didn't have the effect to burn the opponent, then it wouldn't be banned right now. That extra bit of utility kind of takes the card over the top, and for these reasons I'm really happy that Konami banned this card. But anyways, if you enjoyed the video, then do me a favor and leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Comment your thoughts on the ban list as well as what other cards you believe were winners or losers, or decks that were winners or losers down in the comments below. Subscribe for more amazing competitive Yu-Gi-Oh videos, and thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all next time.